As we work into shoulder stability and progressing into the strengthening of the back part of our rotator cuff, we like to gradually work from these lower positions to up higher, which mimics somewhat of a throwing or sport-related position. But a lot of times as we do that, we start to overly activate the muscles on the top of our shoulder blade, specifically our upper trap. So as we start to rotate, as we get tired, we start to tense at our neck and create this tension up here that we really don't want. So it's not a bad idea to start laying on your back so you can really control the positioning of your shoulder blade and keep it in somewhat of a downward position as you rotate, and then progress back to some of the standing. So one of the first positions I like to give to someone is on their back, and you take the band and you wrap it around the opposite foot, and if you have two loops, you take one loop through the other and create this little bit of a slip tie around the foot. Okay? So now I'm going to lay down on my back, and I can make this a little looser with my knee bent or a little tighter with my knee straight. So looking at me from the side, I'll have this band in my hand, and some people I encourage them, if they have any tightness in the front of their shoulder, to where their shoulders may be raised up a little bit, to start with a small pad or towel under the elbow, which may be a little bit more comfortable. Now I could do this down here in this lower position that we typically do external rotation, or I can do this up at 90 degrees. So either one, this is a good starting point for shoulder external rotation, to where I have my arm resting here, so there's no threat of me hiking up my shoulder. If anything, I can kind of keep my shoulder sucked down against the floor with a little bit of tension in my armpit as I come out into this external rotation. And then same thing, keeping that shoulder down as I rotate back out of it. And if I want a little more tension, like right here there's not as much tension in the band, I can straighten this other leg a little bit more, so I start with more tension, and same thing. First thing I do is suck that shoulder back and down into the floor as I rotate back. And this really helps me isolate the muscles that I want to engage, which is in this back part of my rotator cuff and shoulder, as opposed to feeling tension up on the top or stuff on the front outside of my arm. So I can start in this lower position and try for 10 to 20 of these slow. And then this is a good position for me to work up into that higher 90-degree position, and same idea, kind of work into this, pressing down, depressing my scapula as I rotate back, ensuring that I'm isolating this to strengthening in the back of my shoulder, and no pain and no tension on the top of my neck. I can even do a little rotation of my head to make sure that I have the same amount of mobility as I'm doing this, because if I'm tensing up here, my neck's going to be stiff. So once again, I can start down here, really pulling that shoulder blade in this down and back position, coming back out of it slowly. You'll notice I like to lead with this thumb up position. And then I can do the same exercise up at 90 degrees. Same idea. I do like to come down into a little bit of the internal rotation, and then shoulder down as I pull back into external. Once again, this is a nice precursor, doing this first on the ground and making sure you have that good control before you do it in standing.